My dad raised his glass and said, "Here's to the grandkids who will actually make something of themselves." Everyone looked at my sister's kids. My daughter asked me, "Grandma didn't mean me, right?" I kissed her hair and said, "No, sweetheart." Then I turned to the table and added, "But the people funding this house just changed." My dad's chair scraped back. "My name is Margaret and I need to tell you something that's been eating at me for weeks now. You know that moment when you realize the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally have been quietly destroying your child's self-worth? Yeah, that happened to me at what was supposed to be a celebration dinner." My dad raised his glass, expensive crystal by the way that I'd bought him for his birthday, and said, "Here's to the grandkids who will actually make something of themselves." His eyes swept right past my daughter Lily and landed on my sister Bethany's 3 kids like they were the only ones in the room worth acknowledging. Everyone at that table knew exactly what he meant. My mother actually smiled and nodded. My sister? She just looked down at her plate but she didn't say a word to stop it. Lily was sitting right next to me. She's 10 years old. 10. And I felt her entire body go rigid in that way kids do when they're trying not to cry in front of everyone. She leaned into me and whispered, "Grandma didn't mean me, right, Mom?" I kissed her hair, breathed in the strawberry scent of her shampoo and said as calmly as I could, "No, sweetheart." But inside, I was already done. Completely done. I turned back to that table full of people who'd just sat there in silence and said, "But the people funding this house just changed." You should have seen my dad's face. His chair scraped back so hard it nearly tipped over. "What did you just say?" "Let me back up because you need to understand how we got here. Do you think family has the right to treat you however they want just because you share blood? Because I used to think loyalty meant taking it all on the chin. My parents moved into this beautiful house in Portland about 3 years ago. Big windows, mountain views, one of those neighborhoods where everyone waves at each other. The kind of place they dreamed about their whole lives. There was just one problem, they couldn't afford it. Not even close. Dad's pension covered maybe half the mortgage and Mom never worked after Bethany and I were born. So guess who stepped in? Me. I'd been paying 70% of their mortgage for 3 years straight. That's $2,400 a month in case you're wondering. I'm a senior project manager at a tech firm and yes, I make good money, but that doesn't mean I'm just swimming in it. I have Lily to raise on my own. Her dad hasn't been in the picture since she was 2. I have my own mortgage, my own bills, her tutoring sessions, her art classes, everything a single mom juggles while trying to keep it all together. But did my parents ever acknowledge it? Not once. Not a single "thank you, Margaret" at Christmas. Not a card on my birthday saying they appreciated it. Nothing. Meanwhile, Bethany? She's the golden child. Always has been. She married Connor, this real estate guy who's apparently going places, and they have 3 kids, Tyler, Madison, and Chase. Perfect grades, perfect sports teams, perfect everything if you listen to my mother go on about it. Which she does. Constantly. And Lily? My brilliant, creative, sensitive daughter who writes poetry and paints these incredible watercolors and has a heart bigger than anyone I've ever met? She's somehow not good enough for them. Because she's not on the honor roll. Because she'd rather read fantasy novels than play soccer. Because she asks questions that make people uncomfortable and doesn't just smile and nod like a good little girl. I've watched them dismiss her for years. Little comments here and there. "Oh, Lily's doing art again." Well, not everyone can be academically gifted like Tyler. Maybe she'll find her thing eventually. Each one like a tiny paper cut that you don't notice until you're bleeding everywhere. But that night, that toast, that was different. That was him saying it out loud in front of everyone with Lily sitting right there. That was him drawing a line in the sand and putting my daughter on the wrong side of it. My dad stood up, his face red. "You're being dramatic, Margaret." It was a joke. A joke. I kept my voice level even though my hands were shaking. "Tell me what part of humiliating a 10-year-old child is funny, and I'll laugh right along with you, Dad." My mother jumped in then because of course she did. "Oh, for heaven's sake, you're too sensitive. Lily knows we love her." I looked at Lily. She was staring at her untouched plate, tears rolling down her cheeks silently. "You tell me, does that look like a child who feels loved?" "We're leaving," I said, standing up and taking Lily's hand. Bethany finally spoke up. "Max, come on. Don't make a scene. Don't make a scene. That's rich coming from someone who'd sat there and let her own sister's kid get torn down just to keep the peace." "I've been paying for their life for 3 years, Beth," I said quietly. "And they can't even show my daughter basic respect. So yeah, I'm making a scene." I took Lily home that night and after I tucked her in, after I sat with her while she cried and told me she was sorry for not being good enough, I went into my kitchen and I made a decision. The next morning, I called my bank and stopped the automatic transfer to my parents' mortgage account. Just like that. 3 years of payments over in one click. Then I waited. Took exactly 4 days. 4 days before my phone started ringing off the hook. My dad called 6 times in one afternoon. My mother left voicemails that started off concerned and ended in anger. Bethany sent me a long text about how I was abandoning family and being petty. Petty. That's the word she used. I didn't answer any of them. Not yet. Because here's what I was thinking, and I want to know if you would have done the same thing. If they wanted my money, they were going to have to acknowledge what they'd done to Lily. They were going to have to apologize. To her. Not to me. To my daughter. Do you think that's fair? Or do you think I should have just kept quiet and kept paying? Because what happened next? Well, let's just say things got a lot worse before they got even close to better. So there I was, ignoring 17 missed calls and a voicemail from my mother that literally started with, "Margaret Louise, you pick up this phone right now. Like I'm 12 years old again and missed curfew. You want to know what I did instead? I took Lily out for ice cream. We went to that place downtown where they make the waffle cones fresh and she got mint chocolate chip with gummy bears on top. Which is disgusting by the way, but it made her smile. We sat outside even though it was chilly and I watched my daughter actually relax for the first time in days. Mom," she said, licking melted ice cream off her fingers. "Are Grandma and Grandpa mad at you?" "Smart kid. Too smart sometimes." "Probably," I told her honestly. "But that's not your problem to worry about, okay?" She nodded, but I could see her working through something in that brilliant mind of hers. "Is it because of what Grandpa said at dinner?" My heart broke a little more. "Yeah, baby. It is." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "And that right there? That's what killed me. My daughter was apologizing for my parents being cruel. Do you see how messed up that is? Lily, look at me." I waited until those big brown eyes met mine. "You have nothing, and I mean nothing, to be sorry for. You are smart and talented and kind. If other people can't see that, that's their loss. Not yours." "Got it." She nodded, but I'm not sure she believed me. How could she, when her own grandparents had spent years making her feel invisible? The calls kept coming all week. My dad left a message that was just him breathing heavily and then hanging up. Real mature. My mother tried guilt. "We raised you better than this, Margaret. Family takes care of family." Oh, the irony. Family takes care of family, but apparently mocking your granddaughter at the dinner table is totally fine. Bethany was the worst though. She showed up at my house on a Saturday morning unannounced with all 3 of her kids in tow. I answered the door in my pajamas because I'd been planning a lazy morning with Lily. Cartoons and pancakes, nothing fancy. "We need to talk," Bethany said, pushing past me into my living room. Tyler, Madison, and Chase scattered immediately. Tyler to my TV, the younger 2 toward Lily's room where I could hear them start squealing about her art supplies. "Great. Good morning to you too," I said, crossing my arms. Bethany looked exhausted. Her hair was in a messy bun and she had that frantic energy she gets when Connor's out of town and she's solo parenting. "Mom and Dad are freaking out, Mags. Their mortgage payment bounced." "I know. You know." Her voice went up about 3 octaves. "That's all you have to say? The bank is threatening foreclosure procedures and you just, you know?" I walked to my kitchen and started making coffee. Mostly because I needed something to do with my hands so I wouldn't say something I'd regret. "Want some?" "I don't want coffee, Margaret. I want you to explain what the hell you're doing." Lily appeared in the hallway, still in her unicorn pajamas. She took one look at Aunt Bethany's red face and quietly retreated. My protective mama bear instincts kicked into overdrive. "Lower your voice," I said quietly. "There are kids here." Bethany laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Right. Because you care so much about kids. That's why you're letting your parents lose their house." "I'm not letting them do anything." I poured my coffee slowly, deliberately. "I'm simply no longer paying for a house where my daughter gets treated like she's worthless." "Oh my God, you're still on that?" Dad made one comment. One comment. Now my voice was rising. "Beth, it's been years. Years of them treating Lily like she's defective while they throw parades for your kids every time they breathe correctly. That's not fair. Isn't it?" I turned to face her. "When's the last time Mom called to ask about Lily's art show? When's the last time Dad showed up to one of her poetry readings?" "I'll wait." Bethany looked away. "They're busy. They can't make everything. But they make it to every single one of Tyler's basketball games. Madison's dance recitals. Chase's science fairs. Funny how that works." The silence stretched between us. From Lily's room I could hear Madison saying something about weird paintings, and I had to grip my coffee mug harder to keep from marching in there. "So what's your plan?" Bethany finally asked. "Just cut them off completely? Let them lose everything?" "My plan," I said carefully, "is to stop funding people who hurt my child. If they want to have an actual conversation about how they've treated Lily, if they want to apologize to her, not me but to her, then maybe we can talk about working something out." "They're not going to apologize, Mags. You know Dad. He's stubborn." Then I guess he's going to learn a really expensive lesson about whose money he's been relying on. Bethany stared at me like I'd grown a second head. When did you become so cold? That one hurt. I won't lie. But you know what? I was tired of being the understanding one. The flexible one. The one who bent over backward while everyone else stood straight. I became cold, I said slowly, the moment I watched my daughter cry herself to sleep because her grandfather told her she'd never amount to anything. Where were you when that happened, Beth? Oh right, you were sitting at that same table saying nothing. Her face flushed. I didn't know what to say. How about that's not okay? How about don't talk about my niece like that? How about literally anything other than silence? We stood there, two sisters who used to tell each other everything, now on opposite sides of a canyon I wasn't sure we could cross. Mom's crying every day, Bethany said quietly. Dad won't eat. They're terrified of losing the house. Good, I thought. But I didn't say it out loud because even I have some limits. I'm sorry they're upset, I said instead. But I'm more sorry that my 10-year-old daughter thinks she's not good enough for her own family. Bethany gathered her kids. Madison complained about leaving, Tyler didn't look up from his phone, Chase hugged Lily goodbye, which was sweet, and left without another word. That night my phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Margaret? It's your Aunt Caroline. My dad's sister. I hadn't talked to her in probably 2 years. Aunt Caroline. Hi. Don't hi me, young lady. I just got off the phone with your mother and she's beside herself. What's this about you cutting them off financially? Oh good. So they were calling in reinforcements now. Did she tell you why? She said you had some kind of disagreement at dinner. A disagreement. I laughed and it came out bitter. Is that what she's calling it? Margaret. Aunt Caroline, Dad toasted to the grandkids who will actually make something of themselves while looking directly at Beth's kids and completely ignoring Lily. My daughter asked me if Grandma meant her. She's 10 years old and she had to ask me if her own grandfather thinks she's a failure. The line went quiet for a long moment. Then, he said that? In front of Lily. Word for word. Oh, honey. Her voice changed completely. I'm so sorry. That must have been awful. And just like that I started crying. Because someone, finally someone, acknowledged that what happened was wrong. Not dramatic. Not an overreaction. Just wrong. What do you think? Was I right to cut them off or should I have handled it differently? Because I was starting to second-guess everything. The foreclosure notice came 2 weeks later. My mother left me a voicemail that was just her sobbing. My dad sent a text, the first direct message he'd sent me in years, that said, "We need to talk. This has gone far enough." But here's the thing they didn't know yet. Here's the part that was about to change everything. I'd been documenting everything. Every dismissive comment about Lily. Every missed event. Every time they'd shown up for Beth's kids and no-showed for mine. I had dates, times, witnesses. Because I'd known, somewhere deep down I'd always known, that eventually I'd need proof that I wasn't crazy. That this wasn't all in my head. And I was about to show them exactly what 3 years of favoritism looked like laid out in black and white. But whether they'd actually listen, well, that's what I was about to find out. The meeting happened on a Tuesday. My dad insisted on neutral ground, which apparently meant the coffee shop 2 blocks from their house. You know, the one I'd probably paid for with my mortgage contributions. The irony wasn't lost on me. I left Lily with Aunt Caroline, who'd become my unexpected ally in all this. You take all the time you need, sweetheart, she told me. That girl deserves better and so do you. Both my parents were already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years. Her eyes were puffy, hair wasn't styled the way she usually wore it. Dad just looked angry, jaw clenched, arms crossed. Bethany was there too, which I hadn't expected. She gave me a weak smile that I didn't return. "Thank you for coming," Mom started, reaching for my hand across the table. I pulled back. Not dramatically, but enough. "Let's just talk." Dad jumped right in. "This has gotten out of hand, Margaret. We're going to lose the house. Is that really what you want? To make your mother and me homeless?" "What I want," I said evenly, "is for you to acknowledge what you did to Lily." "We didn't do anything to Lily." His voice rose and several people turned to look. He lowered it barely. "You're blowing one comment completely out of proportion." I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app. One comment. Let's talk about one comment. I started reading. November 2023, Lily's art show at school. She had 3 paintings displayed. You told her they were nice, and left after 10 minutes. Tyler had a basketball game that same night that you stayed for all 4 quarters of. We're allowed to go to basketball games, Dad said. February 2024, Lily invited you to her poetry reading at the library. You said you'd come. You didn't show up and didn't call. That same weekend, you drove 2 hours to watch Madison's dance competition. Mom shifted uncomfortably. We forgot about the poetry thing. May 2024, Lily made honor roll for the first time. You know what you said when I told you? I looked right at my mother. You said, "Oh, that's nice." Tyler made high honor roll again. Did Bethany tell you? Bethany looked down at her coffee. Kept going. August 2024, Lily's birthday party. You showed up an hour late and left before we cut the cake because you had to help Beth pick out furniture for Tyler's room. September, you missed her school play completely. October, she asked if you wanted to see her new painting and you said you were too tired. Should I keep going? Because I have 3 years of this. The table was silent. One comment, I repeated. You think this is about one comment? That toast was just the moment I finally stopped pretending that you treat both your grandchildren equally. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We love Lily. Do you? I leaned forward. Because love isn't just a word you say, Mom. It's showing up. It's paying attention. It's making a child feel like they matter. And you've spent 3 years making my daughter feel like she's invisible. That's not true, Dad said, but his voice had lost some of its edge. Then explain to me why you can name every single one of Tyler's achievements but you don't even know what instrument Lily is learning to play. Silence. It's violin, I said quietly. She's been taking lessons for 8 months. He practices every single day. She played at a recital last month. I invited you. You said you were busy. Mom started crying in earnest now. We didn't realize. That's the problem. You didn't realize. Because you weren't paying attention. I took a breath, trying to keep my composure. Do you have any idea what it's like to watch your child's face fall every time you make excuses for why Grandma and Grandpa can't come to her events? To hear her say, "It's okay, Mom," when it's clearly not okay? We never meant to hurt her, Mom whispered. But you did. And then when I called you out on it, when I finally said enough is enough, instead of apologizing, instead of trying to make it right, you made it about money. About the house. About everything except the actual issue. Dad's jaw worked. I could see him struggling with something. Pride probably. The same pride that had never let him admit he was wrong about anything. What do you want from us? He finally asked. I want you to apologize to Lily. Not to me. To her. I want you to look my 10-year-old daughter in the eye and tell her that you were wrong, that she is important, that she matters just as much as her cousins. And then you'll start paying the mortgage again? Dad asked. I stared at him. Is that seriously what you're focused on right now? Bethany spoke up for the first time. Mags, that's not what he meant. Isn't it though? I looked at my sister. You're all so worried about the house, about the money, about the foreclosure. But nobody, not one of you, has said, "We're sorry we hurt Lily." Nobody has said, "You're right, we should have treated her better." Because you're holding us hostage. Dad's anger flared again. You're using money to manipulate. I'm using the same leverage you've been using for years. I cut him off. You thought because I was paying your bills I'd just accept whatever you dished out. That I'd stay quiet and keep writing checks while you treated my daughter like an afterthought. Well, congratulations, you were wrong. Mom reached across the table again, and this time I let her take my hand. Maggie, she used my childhood nickname, please. We miss you. We miss Lily. Can't we fix this? That depends, I said. Are you willing to actually change? Or are you just scared of losing your house? The question hung in the air. What do you think they said? Because I honestly wasn't sure they were capable of putting pride aside. Bethany surprised me. She's right. She looked at our parents. Mags is right. I've been thinking about it since she came over, and we do treat Tyler, Madison, and Chase differently. I didn't want to see it, but it's true. Dad turned to her. Not you too. Yes, me too, Dad. Because I was at that dinner. I heard what you said. And I sat there like a coward and said nothing while my niece's heart broke. Bethany's voice cracked. I'm sorry, Mags. I should have stood up for Lily. I should have stood up for you. I wasn't expecting that. I won't lie, I had to blink back tears. Mom was full on sobbing now. I don't know how to fix this. Tell me how to fix this. Start by being honest, I said. Why? Why do you favor Beth's kids? The silence stretched so long I didn't think they'd answer. Then Mom said very quietly, because they remind us of the family we always wanted to have. My stomach dropped. What? The traditional family, she continued, not meeting my eyes. 2 parents, multiple children, the white picket fence. Everything we raised you girls to want. Bethany has that. With Lily's father leaving, raising her alone, You just what? My voice was barely a whisper. You punished my daughter because I'm a single mother. We didn't mean it like that, Dad said quickly. Then how did you mean it? Because it sure sounds like you've been treating Lily like she's less than because her family doesn't look the way you wanted it to. We were disappointed, Mom admitted. When Jake left, when you decided to raise Lily on your own, we worried you'd made a mistake. There was the truth I'd suspected but never wanted to confirm. They'd been judging me all along and Lily had paid the price for it. So you took it out on a child, I said flatly. A child who had no say in any of this. That's your defense. No, Bethany said firmly. That's not a defense. That's an explanation, and it's a terrible one. She looked at our parents. Do you hear yourselves? You've been punishing a 10-year-old girl because her parents aren't together. That's cruel. Dad's face was red, but he wasn't arguing anymore. He just looked old. Tired. I don't know if I can come back from this, I said honestly. I don't know if Lily can. You've done real damage. You know that, right? Mom nodded, tears streaming down her face. What can we do? Please, Maggie. Tell us what we can do. You can start by apologizing to her. Really apologizing. And then you can show up. To her concerts, her art shows, her poetry readings. All of it. Not because you're trying to get me to pay your mortgage again. But because she's your granddaughter and she deserves your time and attention. And if we do that, Dad asked quietly, will you help us with the house? I looked at him for a long moment. I'll help you figure out a solution. But Dad, I'm never going back to paying 70% of your bills while you treat my family like we're second class. Those days are over. He nodded slowly. That's fair. We sat there for another hour talking through details. It wasn't easy. There were more tears, more hard truths. But by the end of it we had a plan. They would come to my house that Friday. They would sit down with Lily and apologize. Really apologize. And depending on how that went, we'd work out a financial arrangement that didn't leave me drowning while they lived comfortably. When I got home, Lily was curled up on Aunt Caroline's couch, reading. She looked up when I came in. How'd it go? Grandma and Grandpa want to talk to you, I said carefully. They want to apologize. Her eyes widened. Really? Really? But baby, I need you to know something. I sat down next to her. However this goes, whether they change or they don't, you are enough exactly as you are. Okay. She nodded and hugged me tight. Friday came. My parents showed up exactly on time, which was something. They looked nervous. Mom was clutching her purse like a lifeline. Dad kept clearing his throat. Lily sat on the couch and I sat next to her, my hand on her shoulder. Lily, Dad started and his voice actually shook. Your grandmother and I owe you a very big apology. What came next? Honestly, I wish I'd recorded it. Because my father, stubborn, prideful, never admit he's wrong about anything, told my daughter that he had been unfair, that he had hurt her and that he was sorry. Mom echoed it, adding that they loved her and wanted to do better. We've missed so much, Mom said, wiping her eyes. Your art, your music, all the wonderful things you do. And that's on us, sweetheart. Not on you. Never on you. Lily looked at me uncertain. I squeezed her shoulder. What do you think, baby? Do you mean it? She asked them in a small voice. Or are you just saying it because Mom's mad? Dad actually smiled a little. Your mom is definitely mad. But we mean it. We want to be better grandparents. If you'll give us a chance. Lily thought about it. Then, okay. But I have a violin recital next month. Will you come? We'll be in the front row, Mom promised. And you know what? They were. They came to the recital and they brought flowers. They stayed for the whole thing. They took Lily out for ice cream after and listened to her talk about music theory for an hour. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments where old habits crept in, where they'd start to compare her to her cousins and I'd have to give them a look. But they were trying. Actually trying. We worked out a new financial arrangement. They downsized to a smaller house they could mostly afford themselves, and I helped with utilities and groceries instead of the mortgage. It was sustainable for me and didn't leave them destitute. Bethany and I slowly rebuilt our relationship too. She started calling out our parents when they slipped up and she made sure her kids included Lily in everything. Tyler even asked Lily to help him with an art project for school, which made her whole week. Was it a perfect ending? No. We're still working through years of hurt and favoritism. But it was a start. And more importantly, Lily doesn't cry herself to sleep anymore wondering why she's not good enough. She knows now that she's always been enough. It was everyone else who needed to change. So, did I do the right thing? Cutting them off financially until they faced what they'd done? I think about it sometimes. Part of me wishes I'd done it sooner. Part of me wishes none of it had been necessary in the first place. But watching my daughter laugh with her grandparents now, watching her play violin for them with confidence, watching her finally feel seen and valued. Yeah. I'd do it all over again. What do you think? Have you ever had to set a hard boundary with family? Did they surprise you by actually changing or did they double down? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. If there's something you didn't like or you think I should have handled differently, I'm genuinely curious. Share your opinion in the comments. I read every single one, and honestly, sometimes I need to know I'm not crazy for the choices I made. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening.